giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We're streaming live on YouTube, and of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker. Still, boom! I so badly want to talk WrestleMania, but coming up today, we're talking Cowboys 30 visit list. We're inching closer to the NFL draft. We are 2.5 weeks out, which is crazy. So we're going to touch on some of the players the Cowboys brought in over, or bringing in over the next week or so. And speaking of draft prospects, got a not so great update on one of the draft prospects from this weekend. We'll touch on in a roundup before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show. And speaking of a show, I mean, I don't care about this Eclipse Day. Hey, Toxic, I feel you, but I don't give a damn about this Eclipse Day because I don't think I've heard a pop as loud as I heard a pop last night when... Listen, I was expecting Stone Cold to come out. It was cinema. I'm going to break this all down at some point. I might have to legitimately start my damn podcast because of what happened yesterday. I seriously, me and Pat going to have to talk about this. I need to talk this thing out. What went on yesterday at WrestleMania 40 was amazing. It was one of the best WrestleManias of all time. And when... I done about lost my shit when that happened. I done woke my wife up. I mean, it was just amazing. It took me way back to 2001, 2002 Attitude Era. They told an amazing story. Triple H, clap it up, sir. I mean, the Triple H era is here. The Renaissance era will probably get announced tonight. Raw after Mania should be one of the best we've seen of all time. I'm look, I'm gonna stop. We're here to talk about Cowboys, but I'm still fired up from what happened over the weekend. Just bravo, everybody involved, from Roman, Seth, Cody, the Bloodline, Triple H. It was just amazing. And I'm not even talking about what happened prior to them. Night 2 was off the chain, but the main event was one of the greatest I've ever seen. Greatest I've ever seen. With that said, let's kind of bring this back to football. We're going to jump into this roundup real quick. And coming right out the roundup, we're going to head straight into this 30 visit list. I got a guest. We got a guest, man. We got a guest. And we're going to break all of this down, and you guys will like this guest. I promise you. And if you don't, well, you can just kick rocks. You know, that's how I feel about it. But I love you, Bomb Squad. How you doing?
Bomb Squad!
Let's get into it.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time!
It's time.
It's time!
Time?
It is time for...
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Let me talk to you!
I am 100% a big ass kid. Hallelujah. But like in a good way, you know, I'm goofy, have fun, you know, live in a universe. You can live in the MC universe, live in a WWE universe. You got to be able to live in these universes. Sometimes I don't want to live in this goddamn Cowboys universe, but it is what it is. It's in my blood. I can't escape it. There is a Cowboys draft prospect that did not receive good news on Sunday. T'Vondre Sweat, the big fella, defensive tackle, nose tackle out of Texas, was arrested on Sunday while Roman Reigns was out there losing his title. And he was arrested for a DWI. Yeah. I'm curious to see the details that come out, because DWI is different from DUI. depending on what they found on him. But again, that's getting into details. Nonetheless, this doesn't bode well for him, period. Because I don't think this is a situation where Jalen Carter, right? Like Jalen Carter had all this hoopla surrounding him, legal stuff or whatever. And he has some off-field football stuff, actually, that people were like, oh, I don't know. Does he really like football? But it doesn't matter. Dude was a top 5 prospect, right? And for most people, he was the best prospect to come out the draft. So people didn't care for the most part. It's like, yeah, he might not go 1, but then, he'll go top 10. But he's not falling that far down. T'Vondre Sweat was already a day 2 type guy anyway. So I do wonder if T'Vondre Sweat's DWI Sunday drops him even lower on certain people's boards. And I wonder if it matters for the Cowboys, because you know how the Cowboys get down. They tend to not care about things like this when it comes to drafting. In fact, they'd probably prefer it when it comes to highly touted players. Injuries, red flags. This is right up their alley. Now, I'm not going to ridicule Sweat too much because I don't know the player behind the field or off the field. This is not good look, though. It's not good look. But one of the things I talked to Vach a lot about, and I said, man, we could kind of kiki he and laugh at Jason Garrett. However, right kind of guy to me doesn't mean you're a saint off the field. Right kind of guy to me means that you're not going to let off the field get in the way of wanting to be great on it. Your love of the game on it. I am. You can say, man, that's so generic, but yeah, man, I do need a player that loves the game. You know what I'm saying? You can do other things. That's not a problem. I didn't say you can't multitask. I just need to know if you love the game. And I'm not saying this is it. I don't know the guy off the field. We knew about old boy, boss man Fat. There was a whole bunch of red flags of, man, he wants to be a rapper. He wants to be. Never mind, I'm gonna say that. But he wants to be a rapper. This is what he wants to do. He wants to be an artist. He wants to do music. This is what he loves. Football is just to help get there. All right, man, appreciate you, but go play for somebody else. If that's what you want to do. I don't know what's the case with T'Vondre Sweat off the field, but this doesn't look good is all I'm saying. Captain said this seems like the traditional second round pick. Now we're going to talk about what seems like a traditional second round pick here in a second. Let me get my audio right, though. Let me see here. Bada bing, bada boom. Realest guys in the room. We'll do that. And hopefully that works for our guest that's coming up here in a second. But T'Vondre Sweat, ladies and gentlemen, arrested for DWI. More details will come out. Professor O, listen, bro. I mean, we may be on an island here, but I'm kind of feeling that a little bit too. Maybe late day 2, but I don't know. I'm not as super duper as high on T'Vondre Sweat. Just a lot of the flags before the DWI kind of had me saying, I don't know, man. I mean, talking about dealing with weight issues, kind of super duper late bloomer. Again, I would have to dig into the background. That would help me. I need to know the background. Where are you at mentally? I know he's a fun guy. We've seen the interviews and things like that, but I'm not privy to the background information. So all I can do is just go off the film and his production. And he was a late type of bloomer that kind of blew up. And can he kind of hone that in a little bit? We'll see. I mean, there's talent. It's there. But he plays a position already that kind of puts him in that day 2 range if he's only going to be one dimensional. You know what I'm saying? With that said, let's kind of get into more of this Cowboys NFL draft talk with one of the best, in my opinion, one of the fastest risers in this entire industry. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Miss Iisha Morrison.
Oh, man, that's always got to make a scene, man.
Come on, I'm not going to bring you in here without making a scene. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
Can you hear me a little better? I try to fix the audio for you.
No, it is a little bit better.
Okay.
It's cool. I'll make it through, man. I'll make it through.
Thank you.
It's just weird. I'll be a little muffled, but it's totally fine. I got you. I can hear you clear.
Well, I appreciate you waking up this early morning. I know the homie's not a morning person, but I had to get an eye in the sky with two eyes. We had to do it. We haven't done it in a while, so I got one question. One question.
Eh. You stupid, man.
All right, you woke up now. You ready to go?
Yeah. I'm up.
Hey, look, man. Seriously though, all jokes aside, we always joke around here, have fun. But you are one of the fastest rising draft analysts in the game, and if people aren't aware of you, they're about to find out today. Bomb Squad, Miss Iisha Morrison, DallasCowboys.com, The Draft Show, and many other things that you pop on over there, including Girls Talk, Boys Talk as well. You do fantastic interviews, by the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This rookie year was me just trying to get the feel for things, but this season, this draft season, I do feel like things have come a lot more easy to me, and the process has been a lot more simplified because I know what to expect. So
yeah.
I appreciate the growth that everyone has gone through with me through this process to get me to this point for sure.
The sophomore campaign has been fantastic. Before we get into the Cowboys 30 visits, I kind of want to touch on one of the guys they met with, I believe, formally down there at the Combine with this whole T'Vondre Sweat thing. Where you at with it? Does this change anything for you, or is this kind of touch and go, wait and see here?
I mean, I commented on this on Twitter, and first let me just say that, driving under the influence in any capacity is something that I take very seriously. I'm definitely disappointed anytime I see something like this happen to a player during this process, because I understand that not only is it going to affect, their draft stock or whatever, but, also too, these young men are people. And so, yeah, he's have to reflect and, reevaluate people around him, make some decisions and stuff like that, and really show that he's mentally prepared to come into this league and be, held responsible from a teammate perspective and a professional perspective. So I'm disappointed in it. I mean, I heard you mention it earlier, this is a guy, given what the DT position is, this is some, people thought was going to be maybe a day 2 pick and stuff like this. So it's definitely something to keep your eye on. Unfortunately, we already know there are some teams that are like happy, joy when this type of stuff happens, but I don't. I'm more concerned with the player and the player's character and their decision making. So, yeah, it's tough, man. But we see this every draft, that some of this stuff. And honestly, if y'all want to be real, we're gonna start seeing a little bit more of, some of these guys' character being brought to the forefront, or some of these conversations having the closer that we get to the draft.
And he wasn't a 30 visit list guy, but the people we're going to talk about, as you would say, the gentleman we're going to talk about, he fits kind of that mode of the trenches. The Cowboys are huge in bringing in guys with the trenches, and I do want to start off with that in a second. But before we get to that, just kind of want to touch on how important the 30 visit list is for a team like the Cowboys. I can't speak for other teams, Iisha, but when you look at the recent history, you see names like Mozzie, Fehoko, DeMarvion Overshown, Eric Scott last year. The year before that was Sam Williams, Deron Bland, Marquise Bell, Malik Davis. You can pretty much get a sense of what the Cowboys want to do and who they're going to take with these 30 visit lists.
Oh, yeah, I agree. The 30-day visits they also allow, the Cowboys trainers, Cowboys doctors, those folks to get a really good look at some of these players for the medicals, which that comes into play huge. And then also, too, just getting the extra time to meet with them, see how they move, have some extra in-depth conversations. 30 visits are just a tad bit more intimate, I want to say, than a lot of the stuff that's done in the process. There are top 30 visits also. So, I mean, there's levels to this. So, yeah, no, you're 100% right. Like, the Cowboys like to they like to have their own information. So when you see guys come in for 30 visits, it's because they're seeking more information, and that always kind of tips us to some of the things that maybe they have on their mind.
Let's start off with this list. When you look at it in totality, you know exactly what they want, right? A heavy offensive line, heavy on a running back group, heavy linebacker. They want 3 positions, but they want extremely heavy. And I kind of want to start with the front 7 because there's some top names there, right? But then there's some names on the bottom. But I want to ask you first, what stands out about the top guys? The whole Talisi Fuaga, Troy Fatch. I don't believe Troy is on there. My apologies. I think that was actually a mistake. Grant Barton, Jackson Powers Johnson, Kingsley Suamaitai. Like these are kind of the top names that are out there. What stands out about that for you?
I mean, obviously the offensive line stuff stands out. When you lose a guy like Tyron to free agency, those things are important. And, replacing him is going to be important. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but I think this offensive line has kind of been in it's been in limbo, for a minute now. I do think it is important for them to prioritize reestablishing this offensive line. I feel like they've been kind of trying to patch stuff up in a way since Travis Frederick retired, and since then it's literally just been like, okay, they'll have a guy in for a year and then he goes to another team, or he's not developing at the rate you want him, or again dealing with tire injuries. And it's just been, Zach Martin is getting older as well. It's just a lot. Replenishing this offensive line, I think, is an important priority for them to have. And then when you look at how ineffective they were running the ball consistently, I think getting some of these smaller type offensive linemen in here are going to be important. So that's where you see the Jackson Powers Johnson. That's where you see this Sumi Atia. Like, that's where you see some of these names, and you're like, okay, I see there's a temperament consistency, and those guys have that aggressive downhill coming at you run game feel, but also are athletic enough to get out. And then you look at, we already know, like, linebacker is a need. It's not something they can play with in any capacity. I mean, when you talk about the lack of depth in that room right now, it's necessary to be planning for, obviously, this year, but also planning for the future there as well, down to the practice squad. So they can't play about linebacker.
Oh, no.
And they don't look like.
Well, I got you. Just walk with me. I got you. We're going to get to that linebacker spot for sure. And I want to talk about some of those names there. But I kind of want to bring it back to the offensive line here, because you said something very interesting that made me think. You talked about how, Travis Frederick was kind of a staple guy. We know that Zach Martin's a staple guy and Tyron's a staple guy, but Tyron is now gone. And one of the things that I talked to the chat a lot about with the offensive line is, yes, you do need to be able to develop guys outside of the first round. Absolutely. And when you said guys were in and out, I start thinking of, well, Connor Williams, second-round pick, he didn't last past the first contract. Connor McGovern, third-round pick, he didn't last past the second contract. Josh Ball, fourth-round pick, that dude's probably not going to make the team. And I'm not saying Connor McGovern and Connor Williams were bad picks. Our center, Tyler Biadasz, didn't last past the first contract. While, yes, they're hitting on these kind of day 2, day 3 guys in the sense of starting or being a good rotational player, they're not sticking around. So it's a weird line, Iisha. Like, yes, you have to be able to develop these guys. But I know one thing for sure, 2 things for certain. If they take a first-round lineman, the dude is going to be all pro. How do I balance that?
Oh, man, listen, it's a weird place to be in, because, like, to the average human, you say, hey, man, if I do something right, why would I, like, drift away from this? And honestly, too, the way that this offensive line class is set up, especially from the tackle position. Man, listen, and even some of the guards that maybe have some center flex type stuff going on in the first round. Listen, I think you might get to, what did the Cowboys pick, 24?
Yes.
24? Yeah, you might get to 24, and the best player on their board is an offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very possible with just how this class is. So it's like I would understand why they would do it. But I do think, and this is just me, I do think there's going to be some other value there. There might be some other players there that maybe you don't expect that aren't an offensive lineman. Like, listen to me, dude. I'm not one of those people that's like pro get a receiver. Oh my God! But listen, it puts you in a tough spot. I do think the Cowboys do need to. I think it is important for them to not just consistently depend upon the first round pick being that, like, you know, I don't know, that offensive lineman all the time.
Yeah.
I do want to see them continue to try to attack these later rounds and find some of these gems. You know, like, it's possible. We see teams do it all the time. I don't know, like, can you tell me who Green Bay's starting offensive line is now?
No, I mean, they've developed some guys, but they got a scheme too, right? That helps that. Like, that's what I've been talking about for years, Iisha. Give me a scheme that can mitigate the talent, hide some of the talent deficiencies from your O-line. And the Cowboys just, I think historically, they've never done that. They've always relied on the talent of their offensive linemen and not schematically pairing it with them. So you get these all pros, and they're like, "Hey, you go be all pros," but you'll be out of shit. Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. I'll do you one better. I think that's like a team thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They do find value in undrafted free agency and things like that. But when you look at, like, a lot of how this team operates is we need stars. I mean, when you talk about, like, that's a lot of that is because of scheme. But we're not going to go there today. Well, now you can go start on that. But
yeah, we're just talking prospects, but it's hard. It's really hard though, because when you look at a lot of these players, it's like some of these players might have to be scheme fit. You know,
tracking.
Yeah, I mean, some of these top names like Talisi Fuaga, Graham Barton, Powers Johnson. Maybe you'll say, you know, don't worry about it. By the way, Barton, Powers Johnson, center prospects. But surprised they didn't have Zach Frazier on here. You know, I think Barton, Powers Johnson, and Frazier are the centers you look at. I really like Frazier. You know, I just think dude's a nasty player. Maybe they're trying to keep that one close to the vest. But some of these guys might have to be scheme fits later on. Is there a player on this list later on that maybe stands out to you? I know Travis Glover, Brandon Coleman, Matt Gonclaves?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, actually, I'm trying to do my research on this gentleman, Giovani.
Giovani
Manu.
freaking Manu. I was waiting for that. I got some film. We're rolling that up. Here you go.
Yeah.
Found this on YouTube. This dude's a mountain.
Yeah.
Out there blocking these high school kids, too.
No, yeah, it's you so petty. Yeah. No, it's funny. It's actually, I honestly, my ears perked up, and I was excited to see, you know, that the Cowboys were one of the teams that was involved in his pro day. I tried to look up as much film as I could on him. Obviously, it's difficult to find, but when you just look at just his athleticism, his testing number, just the physicality that he has, like, in his physique, he's automatically appealing. And this is, I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. It's like, this is someone I haven't heard this gentleman's name this whole time until last week when Brian brought him up on the show. And now you're starting to see people send out their reports like, yeah, this guy's kind of a sleeper. And that's the thing about the draft. It's like, man, when you think you're done, dog, I watched 200-plus players, man, and I had no idea about this dude until last week.
Yeah, I believe he plays in Canada, correct?
What's up?
He's a Canadian player.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that could be tough, right? It's easy to miss because he's not in America.
No, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is it him? I think he's from British Columbia.
Oh, okay. My apologies. I thought he played in Canada.
No. I think it's British Columbia. I think that's what Brian mentioned to us, and I mean, I could be wrong. I can check back into it, but yeah, regardless, he's a little off the map.
Right, yeah, facts.
And so I think it is too, like we were talking about. I think it is important. Like, I think it's cool. I saw
apparently British Columbia is in Canada. See, that's how much geography I know.
I'm it's hard out here. Listen, but no, it's hard out here. But no, I think I think this is interesting because when you look at, I think somebody likened it to Philly picking up
Jordan Mailata.
Yeah, like it's just nobody's really talking about him, but they know who he is, and that's why these scouts get paid what they get paid. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why they're the guys, and we do it for about 4 months, and we go about our business.
I mean, 6'7", 352 pounds, and I mean, this dude could be a professional wrestler. Speaking of WrestleMania, look, I get it, right? He's blocking JV kids at the end of the day, but sometimes late round, I'm just taking a flyer on just the traits and the athleticism alone. Let me coach this dude up if I can, and then we'll see what happens year 2 or 3 or something like that. But I mean, sometimes you just got to take a flyer on a super athletic freak. I think he ran sub 540 as well.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Jeez.
This is definitely like a guy you pick up for traits and things like that, and the more, hopefully I'm able to get my hands on a little bit more tape from him so I can refine a little bit of my study about him, because right now most of them are just like, yeah, he's a big dude.
Big dude.
His hands are big. He's fast. But he's strong.
His calves are bigger than my legs, man.
Listen, man, that's the story of my life with everybody, though. So it's hard.
Let's get to another position. By the way, if you guys don't know, we got Iisha Morrison, DallasCowboys.com, joining us. Talk some draft, talk Cowboys 30 visits. And one of the other positions they want heavy on is the running back position. And I got a bit of a swerve for you here in a second, but I kind of want to talk about the actual running backs here. Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, Braylon Allen, Bucky Irvin, Imani Bailey, Jason McLean, Tyrone Tracy, Rasheed Ali. They pretty much shown interest in backs all the way from early day 2 to the end of the draft here. And I definitely think they come away with one, and they have heavy ties right now with Jonathan Brooks. And I would love to know what your stance is on Brooks, given he had the ACL injury.
Listen, if I'm not mistaken, I think the team doctor is the person that the ties are from the medical stuff, and obviously, like I said before, the Cowboys, they want to have their own people looking at some of these guys and stuff. I actually know the scout that drafted him, or that scouted him to Texas, and any person that I've spoken to about Jonathan Brooks have talked about his work ethic and what they think he's capable of. And man, if you really look at the tape, like, I know Trey Benson comes across as like the most complete FSU comes across as the most complete running back, but a really close second, if that, is Jonathan Brooks. The vision, the way he explodes through gaps, and it's with certainty, right? Like, it's not hesitant. He slashes well. He has really good contact strength. I mean, he can read linebackers, and he's gonna make you pay if you false step as a defender. This guy is a complete guy as well, and I'm not going to lie, you know, there are some concerns about the knee injury, but at the same time, I mentioned this on the draft show, are we at a point right now with the running back position that, number one, is done by committee? So I think that also now lessens the narrative of guys. I'm not going to say that you don't want guys to have longevity, but I think the longevity thing is so much more diminished, even to, 2016 when Ezekiel Elliott was coming in, and it was like, okay, like second contracts were things that people were talking about consistently. A part of me thinks that the running back position is turning into, hey man, listen, like it's not guaranteed that you're going to get a second contract, even if you are a star.
Yeah.
And like because it's, teams aren't paying one guy $1 million no more. No, they're spreading this money out, and they're hoping for longevity with this committee and these guys like running in doses. So I think that plays into maybe how these even some of these players coming out from the running back position that have had injuries, how willing teams are to just go ahead and draft them, because the nature of the position unfortunately feels like getting a second contract might not be a guarantee for teams when they come in. So if I'm a front office, I'm like, okay, if he does have some issues, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm even going to sign him to a second contract, which sucks for the guys in the position. But I do think it might ease some of the angst of, okay, we're going to take this guy despite the fact that maybe he had a previous injury. And if I'm not mistaken, Jonathan Brooks is on time. The little bit I do know is that his rehab has gone really well, and some people do expect for him to be ready around the time training camp preseason comes. So it's possible.
Yeah, it sounds oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I know that was a mouthful, but yeah, he's, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it sounds like Stephen Jones is finally caught up to it too. He came out a few weeks back and said, the league is transformed into running back by committee or a complimentary role. And I just had to laugh because that's something that we have been talking about here on the show for years. And it is 100% more of a complimentary or a committee type of backfield. Now, only the Cowboys, for whatever reason, seem to go against the grain, and it didn't work out for them last year. When in reality, they had the tandem situation with Zeke and TP, and they went away from that. And you would hope if they take a guy like Brooks, he's not the end all be all. But they have this, they tend to run these guys, though, right? Marco Murray, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard last year, they tend to just lean on one guy, and that gets them in a bit trouble, and they're a little bit late to the party. But if you take a Brooks, year one, I don't think you can put everything on him. My worry, though, is that if he has a second-round pick, which he's ripe for a second-round pick for the Cowboys, I wonder if they go, hey, man, we got to get everything. We got to squeeze all the juice out you, man. So here's your 310 touches. And in year one, and he got the ACL, and we're like, oh, man, he doesn't look like he's ready.
Yeah, I mean, and then also, too, like, because you are in a position to where you're also trying to replenish that room as well. I mean, it's a weird spot to be in. I know, like, obviously they brought back Rico Dowdle, and I know we all have respect for Rico Dowdle, but when you talk about some of the injury history and things like that, could they go get a running back in the earlier rounds? Sure, but I do think that maybe they need to supplement that with another back, whether that's an undrafted free agent or someone else later in the rounds, because there's just, you're going to essentially, if you were to take a Jonathan Brooks and then you also have a Rico Dowdle, you have two gentlemen who have injury history as your starters. And so, I think it's going to be important to think about the depth there. I do see a bigger role for Hunter Lipke this upcoming season. I think I know, even watching the tape last year, you saw some of the running back capability and some of the things he's able to do, but even as a fullback, I think that he should take a step forward this year. And and also too, I know Deuce Vaughn is someone that kind of got like shuffled and lost in translation last year, but I think he still has value depending on how you use him. The Cowboys just need to, abracadabra a screen game or something. something.
Yeah, they lost a touch of that screen game, didn't they? I think it's very interesting that you brought up Deuce Vaughn, and here's why. Last year, they drafted Deuce Vaughn, right? And I'm on record saying last year was a great draft to take a complimentary back. They did not do it. They brought in a smaller back who was a satellite back, and Deuce Vaughn didn't use him right, couldn't find a role. But if you remember, after the draft, it was McCarthy who came out. McCarthy was like, this role, I'm envisioning a Randall Cobb type role. And as we go look at this 30 visit list, and I'm looking at the wide receivers, and I'm like, man, this is a deep-ass class for wide receivers, and they only brought in one wide receiver. That's peculiar. Why would they bring in one wide receiver with all these amazing wide receivers in this class? And I'm looking at the running backs, and I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8 running backs they're bringing in. I have to wonder. if Malachi Corley, who I think is a fantastic prospect, I have to wonder if he is going to be viewed as kind of a running back wide receiver type as opposed to pure wide receiver, because he's not even a pure wide receiver in general. When you go look at his usage, I'll let you break him down here in a second. But from a number standpoint, almost 50% of his targets were flat routes and screens and crossers. And then when you throw in go routes, almost 60% of his routes were screens, flat routes, crossers, and goes.
Come on, numbers. Come on.
I'm just saying he doesn't come off to me as a prototypical wide receiver, because they call him what? The Yak King. 5'11", 215, and can do some things after the catch. And I listened to McCarthy talk about a Randall Cobb role. I don't think that Deuce was big enough for it. 5'11", 215. Malachi Corley is big enough to do that. And I just wonder if they're thinking about him as a potential running back.
Yeah, I think any team that picks up a Malachi Corley needs to look at him as a guy that can. Now, granted, like, as we talked about this on the show, looking at him, you have to consider a scheme with some of these players, and with a lot of how they use him was obviously by design. So I personally felt like I know Bobby brought up on the show. He was like, sometimes the route running is not. He wasn't doing a whole bunch of route running in college, but then when you turn on, that's why I think the Senior Bowl and that stuff is important, because when you look at the Senior Bowl, you see some of the route running ability. You see how fluid his releases are and how he can get off press, and he has a good feel for guys. I think any team that picks him up should look at him as, this is a guy that has receiver traits and can develop into a good receiver, but he also, to some degree, is an extension of your backfield, and that's powerful to me, especially in this game, and the way that, we see the San Frans and some of these teams that are successful use their wide receivers in a lot of different ways. I think he could be a matchup nightmare for a lot of people. And like you mentioned, like, the screen game is his moneymaker, and some of the stuff he does, it's great. But for me, and anytime we talk about run game or anything like that, man, I want these players, but at the same time, I'm concerned because I know what the run scheme looked like last year. So I'm like, if you are going to bring in a guy like a Malachi Corley, I'm praying to Jeebus that that you use him in the ways that he works best.
Yeah, and I have my concerns about him as a pure wide receiver in a West Coast style of offense that requires a little nuance, that requires a little bit more. I'm not saying it's the Kellen Moore situation, right? But you do have to have a little bit more expanded route tree in a sense, and you have to have an ability to go inside, outside. Coach McCarthy loves that. So I'm just thinking of year one, and I'm like, I don't know if year one he comes in here and he kind of fits into what they do from a receiver standpoint. He would be more of a wild card player if he's going to be a wide receiver. But I have to say, well, the Cowboys already have a wild card player that they don't use a lot. Not saying he's as good as this guy or as big as him in Kevontae Turpin, but they haven't shown the ability to constantly use those guys in that manner. However, if they were to move Malachi Corley to running back, now you can use kind of that make people miss ability, that he's a tough runner, right? You can use him out the backfield more in a traditional West Coast style, because I have concerns as a wide receiver downfield. He posted one of the more poor contested catch rates of wide receivers in the draft, 22% in regards to contested catch rate. So he's not a guy that you just throw it up downfield and he's going to bring it down 50% of the time like some of these other top guys. It's a bit tough. Everything is underneath, and we've seen McCarthy have experience. Ty Montgomery, wide receiver, put him back running back. Randall Cobb did some running back things. I wonder, again, I keep bringing up what he said about Deuce. I wonder if they view him as a guy like, okay, look, he may not be a traditional wide receiver for us, but if we can kind of work him into being a running back year one into this room, and then eventually he can maybe full-time be running back, I could see Malachi being a guy on day two. They say, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I also do think, though, a lot of teams are looking for a Debo-esque player. And then when you look at Debo, like, we look at him as one of the better receivers in the game, and I'd be pressed to say that he doesn't have like a incredibly refined route tree. Has he become a better route runner? Absolutely. But he's a guy that is like, again, like when you move him around and you find matchups with him, that's my thing with Malachi Corley. To your point, I agree. I think the route tree needs some refining and things like that. But I also too, like I said, I consider the scheme he was in and some of the developmental stuff. But I do think like that doesn't mean that he can't come in and have an impact doing some of the things that he does well if your coaching staff is willing to, to help him develop it that way and to let him be free in your offense.
Yeah, I think he's so what we're talking about here is scheme, right? Like if we're talking about NFL, oh my goodness, there's a bunch of teams that would know how to use Malachi Corley correctly as a wide receiver, right? But I'm just talking Cowboys, right? Because if you say Kansas City, if you say, hell, I'll even argue Detroit, San Francisco, even Green Bay, Houston, I wouldn't even think twice about it from a receiver standpoint because they'll get him the ball as a receiver in the manner he needs to get it. I question the Cowboys being able to shift and get him the ball in that manner. So for other teams, yeah, I'm with you 100%. He can go there, be a receiver, refine his route tree, route running, which maybe get better as contested catch guy, expand his repertoire as a receiver. I have concerns that he'd be able to do that here year one. Remember, we're on 1 year. We ain't thinking about 2-3 years because of what's going on. So I'm like, how can I get him in here this year with the Cowboys and use his skill set that's not going to disrupt what McCarthy likes to do offensively?
Hell yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, you ain't did the breaking news sound, but if I'm not mistaken, Dallas Morning News just reported that CD is not reporting to some of the team's first like voluntary workouts. It could be a looming with him. I think it is important for them to look at wide receiver because obviously you lost Michael Gallup. And then also, why you giggling?
I'm laughing because, come on, man. If they truly are you so you say it's important for them to look at receiver 100%, but are we talking about replacing CD?
No. I'm talking. I'm talking about you.
I swear, folk got it.
No. We ain't about to be talking crazy like that. I mean, anybody got time for that? No, I'm saying that Brandon Cooks is this. He's on a one more year deal. Behind him, you have Jalen Tolbert, who I think showed some good things, and I think hopefully he can continue to develop this year. But yeah, you need to constantly be with how deep this class is. You gotta pick a guy up. They have to get a receiver in this draft. They just would be foolish not to.
And that's what shocks me about the 30 visit. Like you only brought in one. I wonder if they're just like, look, we don't need to look. These receiver classes so deep. We don't need to really look at any of them in depth. We know we can grab one in day 2, and he can come in here and probably insert himself in that top 3, depending on who the hell you get. But
or they just hush about it, and we just don't know.
You wonder if what now? I'm sorry.
I said, or they just being hush about it, and we just don't know. Like
but does it not surprise you?
Huh?
Does it not surprise you a little bit that they didn't bring in any of those kind of day 2 dudes?
No. It surprises me, but they sneaky. So
They are.
Like every year, it never fails. We get to draft day. We on day 2, day 3, and you sitting up here like, who is this? I didn't even hear nothing about. Like they have their ways, So, but it is from like, just your eyes on it the first time. I definitely was like, dang, y'all ain't gonna bring in no receivers.
And sometimes I kind of just scoff at what they say, but Stephen Jones did. But they asked him about the receiver room back at the combine, I think it was, and he he was very adamant about it when he said, "Oh no, we like X, Y." He named everybody except Michael Gallup. And he was like, man, yeah, we're big on Tober. We're big on – and he kind of kept going down the line. I wonder if they view their receiver room a little bit higher than most. And I'm the type of guy that views it as, look, if they for whatever reason decide to not grab a receiver in this historic draft, I look at him a little sideways, but you still can go out there for 2024. And I think Dak would do exactly what he did last year, put up 4,400 yards, 40 touchdowns, whatever, and be fine. But you got to hope and bank there isn't any injuries happen. You got to hope and bank that year two in this scheme, Cooks comes out faster and things like that. And you got to hope that, one of these young guys step up for 2025, because I think you have to look at this receiver room beyond 2024, because they don't have a real number two for the future. They don't have a real physical presence, right? That kind of dominant, 6'2", 220 kind of, and I know CeeDee Lamb's 6'2", but you know what I mean, that physical presence, or that super duper route runner guy opposite of CeeDee Lamb. They got questions for the future at this position, and to bring one guy in, I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, do what you do. I mean, I definitely was like, all right, well, that's how y'all going to You're right. And also, too, I mean, when you look at this aerial attack on this team, that's what kept you afloat last year. Yeah. And so, to me, like, listen, if you ain't gonna run the ball like that, then you need to be able to fling that number around however you want it. So
that's fair.
A strong receiver core is something you're gonna need if this run game doesn't improve this year.
That is very fair. We're gonna break that receiving room down this week with me and Foot. So we'll probably continue this conversation. But let's get to another position of need that they brought in a ton of guys with, and that's linebacker. You kind of briefly touched on that earlier in the show, and they pretty much said, well, we're going to bring in the top guys, Edgerrin Cooper, Peyton Wilson, Junior Colson, and then some guys possibly that'll go day 3, and Trevin Wallace, Nate Watson, Jordan McGee. And there is a specific player there. I'm not sure if you got a chance to check him out. But before we get to that second portion of the guys they brought in, Edgerrin Cooper, Peyton Wilson, Junior Colson. These are kind of the top 3 names everyone's talking about. You can maybe throw in Trevin if you want, but I think those are the 3. What's your take on these 3? Because for me, I feel like if we walk away with any one of these 3 linebackers, I'd be happy.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, Edgerrin Cooper, the athleticism, like the range he plays with is obviously hard not to notice. When you look at Peyton Wilson and Edgerrin Cooper, it's really a lot of people have Edgerrin Cooper as a linebacker 1, a lot because of the injury stuff, but just his just sheer athleticism and his length really stands out on the field. Well, I think you get a day 1 linebacker that is going to step into the forefront as a leader, but also too he just plays with such fire and determination, and that's just something that from the Cowboys' perspective, that from that linebacker core, what you're looking for players, I'm looking for linebackers that are willing to come downhill and be physical and aggressive at the point of attack. And he has that. Now, Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky, I really like a lot of what he does as a blitzer as well. His closing speed is through the roof. Obviously, you talk about the sideline speed, but also, too, just how fluid his hips are and coverage. He looks comfortable, and he can sift through trash. Shout out to Nicole for dropping that he was going to have a visit anyway. He's a little raw. We know, like, the Cowboys like that. So he's also a guy that I'm interested in as well. I think he's actually risen his stock and how he's tested and how he's looked. He's a gentleman that I'm curious to see if they really decide to go. And I wouldn't be mad at Trevin Wallace either, at all. I think he's a guy that could come in here and kind of start turning that linebacker room around as well. And I know you saw that DeMarvion Overshown is, like, y'all, I don't know if you like, Overshown is a different type of beast, man. Like, and seeing his movement already, I think I'm telling y'all, like, he feels like he has some points to prove. So I'm hoping that whoever they bring in can really start to turn this linebacker core around and give it a sense of what am I looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but I'm looking for some consistency there. I'm just looking for some, I don't know.
I'm looking for some playmakers. I've been looking for playmakers at that second level for 10 years.
Dependability there, like,
Yeah. And you brought up Demo. I think Demo has the potential to do it, and I have PTSD of ACL injuries to Cowboys, so I'm like I'm cautiously optimistic with Demo. But you said something there, and I've been talking about this with him since I kind of started studying him when he was drafted. It's like, hey man, I don't know what it is about this kid, but I just feel like he's gonna figure it out, right? Like, what's Demo gonna play? Linebacker, safety? I don't know, but he's gonna figure it out. Then can he come back from his ACL? I don't know. I'm questioning it year one, but I feel like he's gonna figure it out, right? Because he just has this aura about him where doubt him if you will. And you can say, well, Sky, you're being a bit hypocritical. That's fine. But I do have to view DeMarvion Overshown as anything we can get from him that's production is a cherry on top, because year one come off the ACL, I do have to proceed with caution. That's all.
I agree. No, I think Mike Zimmer, he takes linebacker very seriously. I can guarantee that I think that they're prioritizing linebacker being something that they, like I said, the depth in linebacker is just non-existent, man. Like I said, it's down to like it's to a point to where they're gonna have to pick up linebacker in multiple spots. Like they picked up in free agency, they're gonna have to go draft. And I wouldn't be surprised if they even go UDFA and stuff like that, too. Maybe they double dip later in the round for another linebacker, because I think it's that much of a need right now.
Yeah, you talk about double dipping and late in the draft. One of the day 3 linebackers I think is very interesting that they brought in, linebacker Jordan McGee out of Temple. You know, when we go look at him, you talk about playmaking ability, some speed, the agility. For me, this is a kid that's very underrated for a potential day 3 prospect. Now, he's not the biggest, right? He goes sub 230. I think he's roughly around 230, 6'1". But, I mean, my guy is diabolical coming downhill. Maybe that'll get him in trouble, but I'm a fan, you know, and I love this day 3. I'm sorry, I love this 30 visit. But have you had a chance to check out McGee yet?
Yes, I have. You talk about some of the traits, which is what you really look at in a gentleman like him, and he has the blitz ability. You could see some of the burst, and to your point, some of the speed. He is a bit undersized, so that is something. I'm gonna be straight up with you. That's someone as a Cowboys person, I'm sick of saying that. I ain't gonna hold you.
But at least he ain't 205. I mean, come on.
Man, I mean, I feel you. Like, I like you said, like he does display some of the athleticism and the coming downhill, whatever, like that makes him appealing. But I look at him and then I look at a guy like I think it's Hopper. Let me see if I can find my notes on him.
They did a formal on Hopper, correct?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's a lot of what McGee is, but I think he's a little bit more refined from a linebacker standpoint, and he does have a tad bit more size. But he does a lot of the things that McGee does as well. I personally think that he's a bit of a step up. If you were going to take another linebacker in some of these later rounds, I would consider Hopper, because a lot of what you see from McGee that you like, you see from Hopper from Missouri, and it's just a little bit more refined. He has a little bit more size. You know, it's to me it's a little bit less of a risk. And those Missouri kids is crazy. I like. I'm serious. Like that Missouri defense plays defense
Robinson.
Like this. Yeah, like they play defense like it's their last game. Every game. Like we sitting up for like. Missouri, it's just they have a temperament to them that I think that that program has instilled in a lot of those players. There's
another school like that you'll love what I'm about to say here. That I'm looking at these two schools if I want a player like that. You know, Missouri's one and Iowa is another one.
You know, y'all know my roots run
right.
deep.
That's why I said that. That's why I said that.
The cornfields out there. I was the same way. I think that they're very fundamentally sound. Most of the guys that come out of Iowa, they just get the basics and they just do their job and go about their business. They're never going to be super duper flashy. You see what Jack Campbell did for the Detroit defense this year, just coming out and being active, very active and making a difference on that defense right away. Even with Hopper, he's a former safety, 6'2", 222. 222. So like I said, you do get a little bit more size with him. I think he did deal with a couple of injuries towards the end of the year, but he's interesting as well. If you like McGee, then I think you would really like Tyron Hopper out of Missouri.
Man, look, give me all the strikers. Like I'm so over, I said this at the start of draft season. The very first show we did, me and Foots, and we start talking about Maurice Luafau, right? And I was like, look, it is not going to be hard to move me when it comes to linebacker play. I'm going to be easily swooned to if you have some striker in you, if you have some anticipation in you, if you're getting downhill, if you playing like a linebacker, I will welcome you on my damn team, because for years we've kind of seen, and I hope that LVE goes out well and he has a great rest of his life, but we know he was a hesitant type of player. Injuries happen. He's heady, but he was hesitant. I think that trickled down to Damone Clark. I think Clark may play a little differently this year, but he kind of played that similar fashion. And then we saw, the undersized ability at linebacker, playing safeties at linebacker. We didn't have that downhill mentality. So it's not going to take much for me to give me somebody that can get downhill. The cat from UCLA, we were kind of great in the mock draft last week, and I was like, how come he keeps getting mocked in the 7th round? And I'm like, well, maybe it's because, he gets downhill. He anticipates it, but sometimes, he'll see it and this trigger will take him to the wrong place. I'm like, look, I can coach that. Just give me somebody that's like, I'm getting that ball right now and not waiting for the action to come to them.
Man, and you're going to need that, honey bun, if you don't freaking, do something about DT right now, because the depth there is non-existent as well. You're going to need a linebacker that's not scared, because he probably they probably going to be needing to be able to shed and tackle big dog if you don't talk about nothing at DT.
I mean, fantastic segue here. They only brought in one defensive tackle, and he is the defensive tackle, okay? Byron Murphy was also
big
a part
dog
of the third list. Shouts out to DeSoto. Right around the corner, by the way, for me. Shouts out to DeSoto. Yeah. Hey, this dude, look, man, everybody keep talking about Tavondre Sweat and all that. No, if Byron Murphy just so happens to be there for you, he's one of those first-round picks that'll just blow up my whole plans, because they've backed themselves into a corner for me, where, hey, you need a lineman in this draft, you need a linebacker in this draft, you need a wide receiver, you need all these positions. You need a defensive tackle too. And if he's there, hey.
I know some people will feel I know a couple of the guys on the show, and we talked about it. The Cowboys going DT early, I know, is not going to feel good for a lot of people, because you just spent like a first round draft pick on Mozzie Smith, so you're looking for Mozzie to really take a step up this year, and so I do think like that might deter them from maybe taking a DT as early as, first, second round. There are some guys in some of the later rounds that maybe you're interested in, but I just think like it feels damning to me, man. And I'm like, and that's just me. I mean, you lose Hankins, you lost Neville Gallimore, and again, like, I'm not sitting up here acting like, it's just a whole bunch of production that you're just getting from there. But I do think that depth matters, and you don't even have a solid rotation at DT right now. It's concerning. It's concerning.
And I wonder if or why, I should say, because it ain't no if. Why is it kind of going under the radar? I tried to bring it to the forefront when we did our top 5 needs, and I talked myself into it being need number 2. I had originally ranked it 3. I had offensive line, then linebacker, and DT. But I mean, you could argue DT is number 2, because you look, even if you do have stud linebackers, no matter how stud they are, you kind of need your defensive tackles to help them too. And there's just not enough rotation. First of all, Mozzie Smith, so shoulder surgery. Yeah. So he can't even, you know what I mean? He can't even get ready until training camp. So now we're going into the season with a shoulder surgery, Mozzie Smith, who got to put weight back on. Carl Davis, are you kidding me? And look, I love Osa. I think Osa's going to be fine, but Osa doesn't have that sponsor in the building no more. Again, best defense tackle on the team, up and coming riser. I think Osa's going to be in this league for a long time. But he also isn't necessarily a prototype for a Mike Zimmer defensive tackle, so he's going to have to kind of stake his claim under Mike Zimmer. So defensive tackle seems extremely bare when you really peel back the layers.
Yeah, no, I agree, and the thing about it, like, I mean, I think that I'm at a point too where I'm just like, stop playing with Osa for the love of muffins and get him a with one tech that he can play next to. I think, you know, a lot of people talk about Osa and how he tapers down towards the end of the season and how that's been a thing with him. But for me, I'm like, well, look at the circumstances. Every one of his rookie, he played extended snaps because there was injuries on the defensive line.
Yeah.
And then the next year, he's always having to kind of pick up the slack and I mean, he's a good teammate. He's going to do what he needs to do, but it's important to look at these players' development and ask yourself, are you helping them develop?
Facts.
Are you helping him to, you know, the level that you want him to be at? We saw a big jump from him this year, but when, you know, a Hankins goes out, then, yeah, he's taking on a lot of the responsibility of what, you know, like those double teams and stuff that Hankins was dealing with before. So you're also asking him, who is more of a 3-tech build, to do 1-tech stuff, and it's, to me, I think it's detrimental to the defense overall, but it's definitely detrimental to his game and what he really brings to the table, because this guy has pass rush ability. He has the ability to get off and fire off the ball quick and get to the quarterback. But when you don't have an adequate DT in there consistently, or a steady rotation so he can have fresh legs, then you see later on in the season that he's just not as effective. And I think that's just the product of the lack of depth at the position.
I also argue the way they use him. I was hoping coming into this year we'd see less stunts, but that didn't change. I was kind of begging for them to let Osa be a guy who penetrates, right? Gets upfield. That's his game. Right. But, you know, in his rookie year, we saw the stunt rate go crazy. His second year, we saw the stunt rate go crazy. And I'm like, well, maybe with Mozzie coming in here, now Hankins is a full season, they're going to let those guys, you know, two gap, let those guys take up linebackers, won't see as many stunts. Nope. Still, you know, Dan Quinn was a heavy stunt guy, and I hate that they use Osa as that guy so much. I get it sometimes because he's a quick dude, but let Osa attack these slow-footed guards and centers and get upfield and use that pass rush ability. And he did get better against the run too. But like you said, if he's having to take on the double teams now because you don't have a true one-tech or nose tackle next to him, not only is he dealing with the doubles, not only is he having to play kind of a one-tech role some damn times, he's also having to use that energy to be a stunt guy. Like, let Osa eat. And I think with Zimmer, he doesn't stun as much. Zimmer is going to let a 3-tech do 3-tech things. He's going to make his nose tackle and 1-tech and 0 do those things. And I think you could see Osa have more production than he did towards the end of the year last year.
Yeah, no, I agree. And some of the best work we saw from Osa this past year is when, you had a Hankins in the middle and you were able to line up Osa next to Micah. That's a matchup nightmare for anybody, because I think that Osa, obviously, like you said, he's a penetrator. He's able to get upfield. He plays with speed. He plays with power. And then you put him next to Micah, people got to make business decisions. Yeah. And so I think, like I said, the lack of depth definitely, to me, came back to hurt them. You're looking for fresh legs later in the year, and then, like, listen, I ain't about to stress you out now, but baby, Ed just starting to look like it. I ain't trying to stress you out, man, but
man, we got a lot of need this and need that, huh? I mean, basically, I did a game the other day. I did a game with Pat the other day. I was like, shoot, look. The choice is yours. You can get with this, or you can get with that. I mean, you need this and that. You know? Yes. I mean, drafting DM feels like it's really necessary with the depth that you lost to the Dallas Commanders, and also to just the way that things fall. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. He's here for a year. Don't think he's not. Like, his contract is for a year. Man, listen, personality-wise, from what I know about them, he don't play no games. No. So I think that he's definitely going to want to establish he don't care if it's a year or not.
I'm going out with a bang.
And look, you know, we kind of keyed about this. It might be a year as defensive coordinator. Who's to say he might not be the next head coach?
You all right.
I'm just playing. I hope that ain't the case, but we know how they move. I forget who it was that called in. I was like, you know what, you got a point there because they move in that weird ass way, and they like who they know, right? You know,
I mean, he's qualified. This is a year for him.
No, man, stay as defense. See, these DCs that go back to being head, that don't always work out like that. There's only a handful of Bill Belichick's and Tomlins. You know what I mean?
He might be comfortable. I know that like a lot of people assume that every coach that, you know, wasn't head coach and stuff, you know, just wants to be a head coach again. Nah, some of these guys, when they get out of those positions, number one is it is less stressful being a coordinator than being a head coach.
Hey, 2I.
What's up?
This is the Dallas Cowboys. If Jerry and Steven go to Zim at the end of the year, the Cowboys get bounced in the first round. You know, we got the working history, won Super Bowls, and they say, hey, Zim, we want you to be the head coach. Yeah, all right. Zim ain't going to be like, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to go work for the Carolina Panthers as a defensive coach. He taking that job, man. He taking that job.
He stressed me out, man. Nah, but even from the DT position, man, I do think there's some guys in some of these later rounds that are appealing. I think McKinley Jackson from Texas A&M, who we've talked about on the show, is a guy that if you were to get a DT in some of these later rounds, maybe you're interested in him. I don't know where Brandon Dorless out of Oregon is going to fall, but he's raw in a sense of like, man, I don't know. Because when you watch him play, he's just all over the field. Like, he's just all over the line. You just don't know where he's going to be. And Troy Fautanu, he said that was the best player he's played against. You know, so he's one of the top players, top offensive linemen in this draft. And he was like, nah, bro, that dude from Oregon.
Let me tell you who my guy is.
Stress me out, big dog.
My guy is Big Tunchi.
Yeah, nah, he's
Dwayne Carter.
Bruh.
Dwayne Carter from Duke, man. Listen, I don't know how much love he getting, but you land me a Dwayne Carter, you know, I don't know if you're looking at like late day 2, the 3rd round, 4th round. Oh, Cowboys don't got a 4th round. I take him.
Yeah, he's a guy as well. And I think there was another DT I watched the other day out of, let me see if I can find them, out of Illinois, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, yeah, Keith Rudolph Jr., DT out of Illinois. He's a 3-tech, 5-tech guy, but he can move across the line as well. And I like some of what I saw from him, too. Really disruptive. He can locate the ball well. He wins with power, leverage, and heavy hands. But, like, when you talk about the penetration, he has a quick first step, high motor. He's a guy that I do think also, too, in those later rounds that if someone grabbed him, they'll get a good value pick, but also, too, he can make a difference on your defensive line. There are some guys in these later rounds, but you definitely need to find the scheme fit for them and have the proper guys in there to be able to develop them as well.
Let me get another one because you're breaking this thing down. Let me get another one. We talked about Rook Roho from Clemson. He was a 2nd round pick in one of the mock drafts. Interesting. What's your thoughts on Rook?
First of all, we need to say this man's name correctly.
Okay. Rook Roho, right? Isn't that how you do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Man. Yeah. He's another guy like. He tested well at the combine. You see it in his 10-yard split, just how explosive he is off the ball. I personally, like, again, it's weird to me because I was just talking about it as like it's either this or it's that because of how the league has changed with all of the tweeners at the DT position, the tweeners at the edge position, the tweeners at the linebacker position. You either get this or you get that with a lot of players. Mm-hmm. It is difficult to find guys who are willing to put their nose in the dirt and freaking get involved in the run game and be vicious. But also too, they're able to rush the passer. I mean, when you look at Rook, one thing that I read up on him about is the leadership skills are very strong with him. He plays with a lot of raw power, 6'4", 295 to 300. You know how they be. It be a little bit back and forth. He's Nigerian. And I know maybe that doesn't stand out to anybody else, but listen, like the few Nigerian men I know, they're very determined workers, man. And I think you see some of that. It's temperament on the field. Like, why are you laughing?
Because if we was on Vacha's show, boy, we'd have been close to getting canceled. Because I was about to say something, but I'm not gonna go there. We're gonna keep it professional. Shouts out to Rook Arojo.
No. Like, I mean, I know that people don't like to put a lot of stock into this stuff, but I do. I think where these players come from, I think their upbringing, I think how they got into football, all that stuff to me shows up in a lot of temperament and how they play. Absolutely. And just how and how much they have drive for the game. And I think you see that in him. He stepped up a lot this year with the loss of Brian Brees. I think people spoke really highly of him. And they use him in the interior as well, but sometimes they'll push him out to the outside a little bit and let work there. The awareness from him is to me is top tier, because you even see in his game he has the awareness to get batted passes. Like he gets his hand up in the passing lane. His lateral agility, I think, is unfair. I don't think that somebody that's that big of a human should be able to shuffle and direct the ball the way that he has. His lower body's so strong, but it doesn't take away from that speed that you see from him. But the power is just raw and it's evident, so.
Yeah, he crushed it at the combine, right? And you talk about that agility. They run a lot. I don't know if you noticed this when you watched them, Clemson. They run a ton of like games, twists, stunts, ET, TE, TT, and he was almost always really damn good at doing it.
Yeah, no, he's people in the chat.
I know they can be. That's why I love them. I love the Bomb Squad. They funny in there. But man, can we get flames in the chat for 2i with the breakdown of these prospects? I mean,
Let him cook.
Her.
Let him cook now.
Her.
Let him cook.
Her.
I said let
her
him cook.
I appreciate that, man. I'm just doing my job, big dog.
And you do it very, very well, man. Like I said, proud of the growth, proud of your year 2 sophomore campaign. And I know there's so many great things in store. We just waiting for, official things to happen. But knowing that, these steps are being taken, 2i is awesome, man, to see you kind of grow. Before we go, you got anything coming up? Anything you want to let the chat know where to check out your work at?
Oh, man, yeah. Well, as y'all know, obviously I'm on the draft show every Tuesday, Thursday, 11 p.m. Central Time with the guys. We're at the home inning stretch. Thank you, Jesus, because your good sis is tied. I'm going to be honest with you, man. Like, it's so many people that I feel like want to be a draft head and do. Listen, this is not for the weak. It requires lot of work because listen, you get caught slipping, people gonna tell you about it. So it's listen, like this is a lot of work, and I'm excited to be towards the end, so things start making sense, and we can go ahead and wrap up this draft class and get some clarity on what's going on. That's how I am, and that's why I've never been like, I don't really like mock drafts, because they're so hypothetical to me, and it's not. I can't find the rationale to do it because I'm just ready for the real thing.
I do one, and that's it. All these mock drafts, they're fun, but I'm not really taking them serious because 9.99999 times out of 10, you ain't hitting 2 of them damn picks. It's just too. It's too volatile. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's too circumstantial for my anxiety to accept. So so I'll be on the draft show. Also, too, if you guys aren't checking out Girls Talk, Boys Talk this off season, you're missing out. Christy Scales does a fantastic job at breaking down a lot. Yeah, Scoop, she does a fantastic job at breaking down a lot of the new rule changes and just cap information, just all the stuff that you want to know about. But we're also, too, if you haven't checked it out, we're having players on this off season And I know a lot of people have questions about some of the things moving forward, some of the way the season ended, what the locker room feels like. We're having these guys on because we didn't really, if we're being straight up, since the season ended, we haven't really gotten a whole bunch of information or clarity, given how the season ended.
Yeah.
Jesus. There has been a lot of, player input. So, take advantage of the opportunity to hear from these players on Girls Talk, Boys Talk. We will be having more players on through the off season. And, yeah, it's been great, man. So, that's about it. Dog, like, listen, the draft is taking all my time. I ain't got a whole bunch of special stuff to say. Like,
no, I hear you. So can we not? I don't want to have to press this button again at some point. Where have you been? I don't want to have to ask where you've been at. So can we get you back on here and get Eye in the Sky with 2I Part 2 after the draft to discuss some of these players? Can we get you on record?
Listen, absolutely. That's the easy part, big dog. You mean they drafted?
After the draft. I'm not going to put you back in the blender again and be like, all right, 2I. Now let me know about the 7th round picks that we might potentially. I'm not going to do that to you. I don't want to know about ITT Tech and IDC, DCEE College. I don't want to know about them. I'm just saying, just keep it to me. The only ITT Tech dude I want to know about is Giovani Manu. That's the only one. Other than that, I'm good.
Nah, man, but in fairness, and I said this to the guys though, man. Listen, I know that like these smaller school guys, and sometimes like they're not as interesting, but man, like I still want to be knowledgeable on them.
Fair.
And take the time to speak about them highly, which is why I'm like about to be at like 250 players, because I think that they deserve that. These kids wait their whole life for their names to be called, you know what I'm saying? And their parents that are listening and their families that are listening deserve to hear their players, despite them going to a small school. But also, too, Scott, man, listen, the more that I have had the opportunity to go to the Combine, the Shrine Bowl, this stuff, these kids, some of their stories, it's not always ability, man. A lot of the time, it's a lot of different circumstances, eligibility, all that stuff that comes into play. Man, COVID really derailed a lot of these guys' collegiate careers and how they attack things. So I know the smaller school guys aren't as interesting to a lot of people, but I take interest in them because I just think they deserve that for sure.
I think that's what's so cool about the access you have is that you take the human side of it. Right. Yes, we can talk about the X's and O's and the player on the field, but you can't measure heart. Right. And this is why I said this about T'Vondre Sweat earlier. I don't know him off that field. Right. I want my players to love football. And I don't know that unless, you speak to that player, you dig into his history. And sometimes even then that doesn't always pop up. But, man, you can't measure somebody's grit, heart, will, determination to be great, even if they come from ICDC college.
I agree, but also too. Hey, listen, the Cowboys. Listen. I'm telling you, boy, they might get on my nerves sometimes. But the way that they attack undrafted free agency
best in the business.
It's top tier, and that's where some of these smaller school guys and things like that come into play. That end up having a role on special teams, practice squad, all that stuff. I mean, it's a machine.
Yeah.
So it all has value because those scout team guys that these guys are going up against in practice, they hold your starters accountable. So you need competitors. You need guys that have the athleticism. Even if they're not to the level of everyone else yet, you need guys that are going to challenge your starters in these positions, preseason, all that stuff. Competition's healthy. So with how the Cowboys handle undrafted free agency as well, if you're the covering the Cowboys, you can't sleep on these smaller school players.
UDFAs are definitely important here.
Yeah, they'll pick them up and they'll pay them top dollar. I mean, Hunter Lipke was one of the highest paid undrafted free agents, one of the highest paid rookies in general, and he was an undrafted free agent last year.
Mm-hmm. I think they did it the year before that with a certain player too. They definitely, I think they view it, and Brian does a great job of talking about this, as an extension of the draft and not just, we're bringing in UDFAs. The Cowboys rely on them because they don't sign free agents. So they need to hit on them as well. Hell, you could argue they hit on UDFAs more than they hit on the actual draft class last year, but that's a whole different discussion too. All right.
Messy today. But yeah, but no, so yeah, like, if you are somebody that's wanting to cover the draft, man, like, make sure that you're taking the time to look at some of these smaller school players and things like that, because that's the Cowboys really value those guys in this process as well. So, but yeah, I ain't got a whole bunch of work coming like that, Doug. Like, y'all see me around, and when the draft is over, you're not going. Besides, when I come on with you,
you need a much-deserved break. Trust me, I know all about that.
Listen, the root word in off season is off. I take it very personally. You understand me? So, but if y'all have any questions, send them my way. I try to respond.
You do a great job on Twitter, 100%.
Yeah, try. If you bring a player my way, I will take the time to watch them. I know I don't see everything, so if you have some insight on some of the players that we talked about today, definitely comment, message me, or whatever the case may be, and I'll get back to you. And I appreciate everyone's input because we don't all know everything. At all, man. That's why I lean. I say this to about Foot, say about Vosh, say about all the draft community. I lean on you guys because I'm not the draft guru type. I don't study 250 players. Y'all point me in direction. I go check it out. I develop my own opinion. I've studied my own guys, but I heavily lean on people that really do this thing and are doing it really more than just 2 months out of the year. And I respect heavily. You're one of them, too, I. So appreciate you for joining us. Go get some rest. Because I know you probably got the show later this week. You're gonna be hitting up, and we're bringing you back. Eye in the sky with 2 eye can't just be a one-off. We got to bring you back, sis. No. I'll be definitely. I am 100% committing to. You know what's so funny though? Because you be getting on here, you be making the people think I just be like avoiding you or something. No. Ain't nobody avoiding you, man. It's not her. I promise y'all, it's not 2 eye. It's not 2 eye, man. So, look, I asked her, was it yesterday? And she said, yeah, I got you. So, it's me. I just got to find. It ain't you, it's me. Is that what it is? It ain't you, it's me. We're going to do it, though. Appreciate you. Yeah, cool. I'll check you later. I will say I have been thoroughly enjoying, as a wrestling fan. I grew up a wrestling fan. I've been thoroughly enjoying seeing all of y'all literally, like, I don't know, just live out this whole WrestleMania thing. It's nostalgic in a way, and I like to see us adults sometimes let loose and let our childhood shine through. So I just want to say that I like that you're able to do that, but I also like just seeing how the community is so involved in the wrestling stuff. It's actually cool, and I think it's a good way to get our mind off of football right now, to be honest. Yeah, for sure. Listen, I do a segment. I should have did it when I had you here, but we'll do it when you're on camera. Even better. I have a segment called Off the Field now, because I say, on the field the Cowboys drive you mad. So you got to be able to find some things off the field that you can divert your attention to sports wise, right? And wrestling for me, I've been a diehard wrestling fan since I can remember, man. I just love it. So it's like you say, it's the ability to tap into kind of your childhood. And it doesn't matter if you're 13 or if you're 63. I feel like you can always reach back into that if it's a good product. And it was amazing last night. I'm hoping that it gained new fans or fans that kind of left, because that happened to me. I left wrestling a little bit after the Attitude Era, so I missed like the good part of the Ruthless Aggression Era. Now you probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I missed the good part of that. I came back, after that. I came back towards the tail end of the PG era, right? And so I had to kind of study up on what happened and what I missed. And now I've been back into it for almost a decade now, man. And it's officially back. This thing right now is, if you haven't gotten into wrestling, this is the best time to do it. It's booming, man. Like, it's booming. Like, I don't know who are the script writers, because they doing the dang thing. Whoever the hell is writing for the MCU. I mean, that was Avengers type writing. Last night. It was. When I heard The Undertaker, I was about to faint. Cause I'm like I know I guess I don't talk about it like that, but like when I was growing up, like very much so a tomboy, very much so. I played the games. I had the toys. I had the ring. I had the freaking toy that when you punched it, it made noise and stuff. You could put it in the headlock. I was into wrestling as well. So
If my mom is listening, she probably having flashbacks right now. Me and my brothers, we had these wrestling buddies and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that we turned into wrestling buddies, tore them things up. My brother, he ain't listening, so I'm gonna say this. That boy was playing with them damn wrestling men till he was like 16 years old. I used to make fun of him and everything.
Yeah.
I used to be like,
do you know how many
what is this
wrestling
noise
moves
I'm
was
hearing back?
practiced on me?
Psh, psh. My boy,
Do you,
what the
do
hell
you
is
know
you?
how many wrestling moves? How many times I got choke slammed by my older brother?
I'm telling you, man, it's awesome, man. Wrestling's awesome. It allows you, like I said, to tap into that childhood, and it was
Man,
an amazing show.
I'm just glad to see something make you happy, bro.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
I'll see you, and I'll be back on. Y'all have a good day. Thank you, Sky.
Of course, man. That was Iisha Morrison, y'all. We call her 2I around these parts. Just did a fantastic job breaking down the NFL draft, breaking down the Cowboys 30 visit list. I mean, can we get Flames one more time in the chat? One more again for 2I. Unbelievable. Good stuff. All that was missing yesterday, and somebody has said it in here. Like, don't get me wrong. When that dropped, one of the loudest pops I've ever heard in my life. And I was telling my wife this. I think it was because it was genuine surprise. I can't stand the IWC community, the internet wrestling community. They're a bunch of crybabies. I thought what we saw last night was amazing. No matter if you're the guy you were rooting for won or lost, like that's not really the point. Was it good storytelling? Was it good matchmaking? Did it entertain you? It did all of that. But we were all waiting for. I mean, I already woke my wife up anyway when the gong dropped. But had that dropped, man, it'd have been nuts. But I love that they swerved us with Undertaker, because he does have some ties to The Rock and Roman Reigns as well. Roman beat him at WrestleMania as a retirement match, right? It ended up not being. But that's why I think it was the loudest pop, because it was genuine surprise. Nobody expected it to be Taker. Everybody expected it to be Stone Cold. I'm about to go back and watch that again. I don't watch it 500 times already, but that's it. That's it for the day. I just wanted to rap with y'all, or actually rap to Iisha and us together, rap to y'all about that 30 visit list. If you did miss it, let me go ahead and kind of just pull up the. Do I have the full 30 visit list? I have it. I don't know if y'all gonna be able to see it per se. Let me see here. View. Okay. Nah. We'll start backwards. We'll go with the linebackers, the defensive tackles. We talked about Jordan McGee in depth. I mean, the big three: June Colson, Peyton Wilson, and Edgerrin Cooper. I'd be fine if we grabbed them as well. Byron Murphy, the only defensive tackle. We kind of went over how interesting that is. And then we talked about the running back class. Ton of them that they brought in. The Cowboys 100% I think gonna come away with a running back. I kind of threw a little monkey wrench in the running back talking about Malachi Corley, who I think is just a fantastic football player, but I don't see a pure wide receiver. And I do think you need to be kind of pure to play in a West Coast style offense, unless you're used in a more versatile role. And that's why I kind of was thinking, Ty Montgomery, Randall Cobb, or just flat out running back for the Cowboys. I do think that is interesting, because they didn't bring in any receivers, y'all. No real wide receivers. And this is not a knock on Corley, but 60% of his routes, if not more, are shallow routes. They're crossers, they're screens, all right, jet sweep types, pitches. And he runs like a running back. I know Deebo Samuels is the comp for sure, but when you throw in Malachi Corley with all these running backs, I wonder, do they view him as a potential running back wide receiver, not wide receiver running back, if that makes sense? And then we talked about the offensive line. They brought in some heavy hitters in Talisi Fuaga, Graham Barton, Powers Johnson, and I think Kingsley Suamaitai. I mean, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. One of those kind of top, 50, 100 picks for sure. But Giovani Manu, 6'7" kid out of Canada, 352, ran a sub 540, super athletic. I would love nothing more for the Cowboys to draft this guy, take a flyer on him in day 3, and I really don't care about Solari, grooming him. Send his ass right down the street to Duke. Now Duke can't work magic on everybody because everybody with the Cowboys usually go to Duke, and not everybody comes out as this all pro. But dude, man, talk about step off the bus, that's the first guy off the bus. 100%. Damn you, Austin. Man, tell you what, I ain't going to. Somebody said in my Vince voice, the funny thing is, you can't really talk about him anymore, but from a commentary standpoint, Vince was, I think, one of the most underrated. We talk about JR, but Vince was a killer on the mic in regards to commentary. But Vince is old news. This is the Triple H era. This is his first WrestleMania. He ran, and man, 10 for 10, 11 for 10. It was amazing. Night 2 was one of the greatest nights I've ever seen in wrestling history. Period. Super off topic. Let me see what Trey G said. Hold on. Why does it do this now, man? This is crazy. Okay, where I get my glasses from? Actually, Walmart. I needed to get some new glasses. I had my other glasses for like 4 or 5 years, and getting a little older, so I had to switch up the lenses. But I got them from Walmart, bro. Yeah, Jay. I'm gonna do a top 10 heels, and I did this before, and I have Vince's number 1. May not be fun, but Vince's heel persona changed the industry. Well, saved, I say this, WWE. Man, I could keep going, but I'm debating if I want to start a new channel. I got my old Skywalker still, but they YouTube acting funny with that. I might start a new channel. I know I'm supposed to do Patreon. Vosh been killing me on Patreon. I just might start a new channel. See what happens. All right, y'all. Let me get out of here. Back Wednesday, me and Foots the King, we're talking wide receivers. Speaking to Malachi Corley, we're going to talk more about Malachi. We've been in the back channels, in the text messages. We've been talking about the receiver position, even publicly on Twitter, and that's why I told him, I said, hey, OTC, On the Clock series, next up wide receiver. Let's take this conversation on air because we disagree with a certain point, but we also agree with some other things, and it's only right that we had that discussion with y'all as we detail the wide receiver position. So I believe Wednesday we'll have him on in the morning, and Friday we'll have Pat back on. So it's a guest week as we are 2.5 weeks out. Next week, we'll see, should be back to full time, and then boom, we are full blown into draft week, which is kind of crazy. But we here, man. We here. All right. With that said, we'll go ahead and press this button.
Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn button.
We do need some physical presence, Willie T. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Vince was unhinged in general, hence why he's not a part of this thing. You know what I thought was dope, by the way? Stephanie McMahon came out and said, this is the first WrestleMania Triple H's run. This is Triple H's WrestleMania. That's Vince's daughter, and she riding with her husband. I love that, man. But we out of here. Love y'all. Peace. Oh yeah, it is solar eclipse day. Look, I don't know, but it's a lot of people coming down here to Texas. I heard y'all messing up traffic out there, so I'm keeping my ass home. But y'all be safe if you want to go out and burn your eyes in the sun. But me and solar eclipse, shouts out to my guy, L.A. Knight. Yeah.
Bomb Squad!